Okay, so in this seventh video tutorial of the Scorpion walking, we're going to go ahead and bake out our curves. And baking curves is essentially the principle behind it is that what we want is, instead of a walk cycle which is multiplied ad infinitum using the infinity curves across our 99 frame timeline, we actually bake out those curves so that every second frame, or could be every first frame, but every second is more manageable, we have a keyframe from 1 to 99. And what that means is you can then go into those keyframes and edit them. Right now, we can't really adjust our walk cycle very much because we are slaves to the existing cycle. If we change any part of the cycle, we change all the other parts of the cycle. But once we've baked out the curves, we can go ahead and adjust the animation. So for example, we could bring the Scorpion to a halt at the end of the shot, have it kind of rear up and snap its claws. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and bake those curves out. So I'm going to turn off the subway geometry and I'm going to go ahead and bake out each individual curve one by one. So I'm going to go and select the main body control curve and then go Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation, open up the options box, go to Edit, Reset Settings, and then I'm going to go down here and under Sample, I'm going to sample it by 2. And that's going to set a keyframe every second frame. And now we go Bake, and we should have, there we go, we should have keyframes every second frame. Now, it's only going to do that for the cog. It's not going to do it for any of the other curves because I haven't baked out those curves. So unfortunately, we have to do it curve by curve throughout the rig, which is slightly boring, but there we go. So I'm now going to go Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation. So I've baked that set of curves. Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation. Doesn't take us long to do. Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation. There we go. So we can now do each set in turn. Or each control curve. Basically every control curve that we've animated, we now have to bake out. Another reason not to animate on too many control curves, because then you have an awful lot of baking to do. It is of course possible to select all of these at once, but you can sometimes get strange results if you do it that way. So I'm going to do it curve by curve to make sure that nothing messes up. And Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation. So far everything seems to be working. Have we done the head? That's the other thing, is it's easy to forget what you've done and what you haven't done. And wait, I know I had control curves on the claw. So let me go, do I have the claws on? What has happened to the claw control? That is very mysterious. Now, for some reason, rather boringly, my IK claw controls have disappeared, and I'm not entirely sure why. I actually just dug around for them in the outliner, and for some reason they've gone invisible, and I can't actually turn them on again. Luckily enough for me, because I created a tab for them on the shelf tab, I can actually select these curves here and bake them out that way. So actually that's another good reason to use shelf tabs, is it enables you to select things. Maya is funny, and sometimes control curves disappear. Usually you can turn them on again by finding them in the outliner and then using the Shift H and Control H buttons to toggle the visibility on and off. But for some reason, I'm not entirely sure why, I can't turn these back on again. Anyway, luckily I have my controls, or my shelf tab, so I'm able to keep going. Now that one's got no keyframes on it. That one I've baked out. That one I need to bake out. Edit, Keys, Bake Selection. That one we need to bake out. Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation. And I think that looks like everything. I don't think we've animated on anything else. So we now are in a position of having curves on every single control on this creature. We have now curves on individual keyframes. And the great advantage for this now is that we can then go ahead and start to make adjustments. Did we put any animation on this? No, we didn't. So, for example, if I want to bring it to a stop, let's say I want this. I want him to actually stop at the end here. So let's say that front right foot contacts there at frame 89, and let's say I want it to stay there. I hit A in the graph editor so I can see everything, and now I'm just going to delete those frames there, and now that is continuing to move. That's weird. Why is it continuing? Possibly because I've still got infinity curves turned on. So let's go curves pre-infinity constant, curves post-infinity constant. That should take the infinity curves off. Let's just see in this window. Okay, the feet should not be continuing to move when let's just set a keyframe there and flatten those curves off. Now, why is that continuing forward? That's very mysterious. Okay, so I've figured out where I've gone wrong here. So the obvious answer is that we didn't actually bake out the keys on the world control. So actually, let me just I'll just add a slow in at the end there so that it comes to a stop. But what we then need to do is to bake out those curves. So let's go Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation, and now I'm just going to take off all the keys on all these unnecessary keys. We don't need all of these. And then on Translate Z, actually I'm going to undo this. Z this out because actually the world control is too important. I'm going to go to Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation, but I'm going to have this sample by 8 instead of 2 and bake it out on 8s because otherwise we end up with way too many keys for the world mover. But now we've got him sort of slowing in at the end there, and let's actually have him come to a stop earlier. So let's push that one up there. Actually, let's just go to 99, middle mouse drag to 89 and hit S. So let's have him slow in there like that. So now we should have him come to a stop a bit more convincingly. There we go. And yeah, okay, so now we've got to have all the other feet come to a stop as well. So that foot there wants to come to a stop at frame 81. So let's hit A in the graph editor and let's blow away all the keys after 81. The point of all of this is to show you, let's flatten those tangents out, is to show you that these curves are now editable. In other words, looks like we didn't. Did we bake out all of the? Yeah, we may also have to. Well, we've got all kinds of adjustment to go on. All I'm doing for now is trying to make this scorpion come to a stop at the end of the cycle. We also have to stop the camera as well. And then once you've brought it to a halt, let's take that foot there as well. You can then start to give it a performance, and this is where creature animation. So that one is going to stop there at frame 89. So I hit A in the graph editor and delete all the keys past there. Let's set another keyframe at 80, at 99 at the end, and flatten those tangents. So now we've got all of the legs on the right-hand side coming to a halt as the scorpion comes to a stop. The ones on his left-hand side are still moving, that is to say the screen right-hand side. But you can see here that you can edit these curves, and we can also add more time to this. We could add another 50 frames. We could then add some animation where it kind of leaps up. But the point of it is that what you've done is you've taken a walk cycle and imported the effectively you've taken a walk cycle, you've brought the scorpion into a shot, you've created a scene, in this case a sort of Parisian subway, and by baking out your curves you're now free to do anything you want with this. And this technique I highly recommend for creature animation, because what it allows you to do is to start off with a walk cycle or a run cycle or a flap cycle if it's a bird or whatever it may be, bake it out, and then add your performance on top of that. So this is really the foundations for animating any kind of creature, starting off with the cycle, adding a translation on the world mover, baking out your curves, and then adding hopefully an interesting and fun performance at the end that people will want. I'm not going to demonstrate that, it'll take me too long. I shall leave that to your imagination as to what you do with the scorpion when you bring it to a stop, or indeed what you want to do with the scorpion at all. But there's food for thought. You can be in any kind of set you want. It doesn't have to be the subway. Anything. You could have it on somebody's desk at work. There are all kinds of free office sets out of there. In a shopping mall, you can have people running, screaming. You can do anything you want with it. Let your imagination run wild.